These are nervous times for unionized workers in the federal public service. The Liberal government made it clear that it wanted to reduce their ranks, but now workers are starting to get notices. About 10,000 employees received notices this week from at least 12 different federal departments. It's all part of the federal budget's pledge to cut 28,000 jobs over the next 4 years. We requested an interview with the Minister of Government Transformation, Public Works and Procurement, Joel Lightbound, but he was not available today. So here to talk about the impacts of these notices going out is Sean O'Reilly. He's the president of the Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So how are workers feeling and how are your members feeling these days?
You know, right now it's very dark times for our members, for Canadian public. I'm hearing stories of folks that, I've heard stories just recently yesterday of members crying, and it's really a dark time. Our members, you know, the reason they work for the federal government is they love the jobs they do. Mm-hmm. You know, they want to serve Canadians, and now it's very dire times, and, you know, they're wondering now, are they going to be able to provide for their loved ones?
This federal government was elected on a promise to essentially cap the public service, and they said that they wanted to find efficiencies to keep the public service in line and working a little more efficiently. Do you not see this as them following through on that promise?
No, I don't see that, them following through on that promise. If they were really looking for efficiencies, you know, making public servants more productive, they'd be talking to us. We've been asking since August when it was first announced, what's this going to look like? And we've never got a real response. I'd love to have a discussion about efficiencies. You want to find savings? Let's talk about outside contractors. The government of Canada spends 26% more to have a contractor than an employee. And I hear even this week of contractors working side-by-side folks that have just got layoff notices. And I noticed last week that they were hiring new ones just as recently as last week.
So you're saying there's no conversations that the government has had with you guys about the path forward, even about these notices?
You know, they've been very cursory, you know, handshakes and stuff like that, but nothing official, no real conversations. It's been very haphazard. We've been asking since the fall, what's the plan? What does this look like? You know, we want to support our members. We want to help them through this, but it's been very piecemeal, and we haven't had a real concrete picture of what it looks like in the future.
I wanted to ask you about the numbers because we know that it's grown. The public service has grown by more than 100,000 workers in the last decade. If you compare back to 2015, it was at 257,000, more than 257,000 workers. It's now at 357,000 people. Do you not agree that at a time when companies and Canadians are trying to make things work on a smaller budget, that the government should try and work a little more efficiently?
Absolutely. Government should be working more efficiently, but it's not in the backs of public servants. You look at those numbers rise, the Canadian population has also rose in that time. Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, I look at the deep cuts that happened in 2012, you know, and that was a recovery from that period because we had situations where Canadians weren't being served. Public servants that do just that, they serve the Canadian public, and you want folks there to serve you. Look at the passport office. Without having those people in place, because they were laid off during the pandemic and they weren't hired back in time, we had long lines of passport offices. I fear for the future. I fear for other situations where Canadians aren't going to be served by the government.
What services are you worried will Canadians see as being affected by these moves that this government is making now?
You know, I look at this week alone. It was a week of erosion of science. You know, the scientists, the engineers, you know, our members, the work they do, they issue weather alerts. They make sure that, you know, transportation is safe, rail safety. You know, they're the ones doing and making sure that the medication, the food on our tables, you know, is safe to eat, safe to ingest. And I'm worried that those sort of things are where we're going to see issues and cause harm to Canadians.
Do you find that it may be difficult, though, to try and convince Canadians about your argument? Because a lot of Canadians might look at this and look at the numbers, the ones that I just noted, and said, you know, look, the services that I'm getting from Service Canada or from the federal government are fine, but the numbers seem to be larger than they were 10 years ago, and they may have a hard time believing or a hard time understanding your argument that you're putting forward.
You know, what I will say is this. I'm going to go back to outsourcing. $26 billion. That's how much the government of Canada is paying on outside contractors. Mm-hmm. This is almost a shadow public service. You have public servants that could do this work, but we're relying heavily on outside contractors. Let's find real savings, real efficiencies. Let's look there. Right now, the government has only talked about 20%. Let's look a lot higher, because that'll save a whole lot more money.
How deep do you think it needs to go then?
Oh, I would hope it would go up to 80% reduction. You know, there is a time and a need for a contractor, but right now, these folks are doing the exact same work as a public servant, and that's not a good use of money.
When you consider that the government has also talked about the use of AI to find efficiencies so that the public service workers can focus more on their tasks, are you at all concerned about that, the use of AI?
Listen, AI is an important tool for you workers to use. AI should be there to help out the worker to complete their job to be more efficient. My concern is that we're going to be relying on AI to make decisions. I'm pretty sure a taxpayer wants a human being to make a decision on their file, not a machine.
Is this something you fear, though, when the government has talked about it and they're talking about an AI strategy going forward? Are you at all concerned that that could be even more notices of service to your members?
Oh, absolutely. I think that would definitely be an impact on our members, but I think it would also greatly impact the service to Canadians, because you're going to be dealing with chatbots and not human beings when you call a call center.
Last question for you. I wanted to ask, what do you plan to do in terms of trying to push back on this at all, or do you think that this is something that you just have to deal with?
Oh, no. We are pushing back constantly. We're showing to Canadians exactly the impact of these cuts. We're also making sure our members' rights are protected, and also we are standing arm in arm with them to make sure they are supported through this tough time.
Okay. Unfortunately, we've got to leave it there, Sean. I appreciate it. Sean O'Reilly is the president of the Professional Institute of the Public Service of Canada. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you.